Hello, everyone, and hello to the four viewers who are watching us right now. Hopefully, many more come through. My name is Zark, and I am joined by AC Landmarks, Ada of the Science of Assassin's Creed, and historian perspective, also
Hey,
associated
your
with
audio
AC.
is really choppy.
Oh, okay. Hold on a minute. Pause. All right. Hold on a minute. O- Okay. Well, then if you well, all right. I'll just hand it over to someone to do the formal introductions then.
All right, Arsh, you want to do it?
Go right ahead.
Okay, I can do the intro. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm taking care of audio.
Yeah. So, welcome to the Assassin's Creed celebration of the 15th anniversary. This time we're going to do Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, and we're going to be doing a discovery tour that we all have organized together. So we are streaming is Master Hecate Ceremonials, and with me are Assassin's Creed Landmarks, Historian's Perspective, Amit, that is the first time that is joining us, and we are very happy to have her because she has a lot of information about Italy in general, and well, in this case, about Rome that goes back from ancient Rome to the Renaissance, I think. So we have a few things that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be doing trivia like always, and I think we can begin with the first topic, which is I'm not sure because I don't have the document, but I just leave to whomever wants to begin, and to do the first memory as well.
That'd be me.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna start off in sequence 2, memory 3.
Okay. Let's. Before we start in sequence 2 memory 3, I also want to let you guys know that we are doing a fundraiser for Assassins in Need, partnering with the ones who came before at AC Fursive on Twitter. This fundraiser is a campaign that raises money for the British Heart Foundation and the American Heart Association to fund clinical cardiovascular medical research and provide education to families around the world. You can donate to Assassins in Need via the website in the description down below if you feel that you want to donate. So thank you guys, and without further ado, let's start with Niccolò Machiavelli. We're going to start with Niccolò Machiavelli because, you know, he's introducing us to Rome, and then we'll learn about Rome from Amit. So take it away, Joseph.
I thought you had sent for me.
Okay, so Niccolò Machiavelli, who was born Niccolò de Bernardo dei Machiavelli, was born in Florence, Italy, May 3rd, 1469, a time when Italy was divided into 4 rival city-states, and thusly was at the mercy of stronger governments throughout the rest of Europe. The young Machiavelli became a diplomat after the temporary fall of Florence's ruling family, the Medici family, in 1494. He served in that position for 14 years in Italy's Florentine Republic during the Medici family's exile, during which time he earned a reputation for deviousness, enjoying shocking his associates by appearing more shameless than he truly was. Though it was initially a dark period for his career, Machiavelli's time away from politics gave him the opportunity to read Roman history and to write political treatises, most notably The Prince. The main theme of this short work about monarchical rule and survival is man's capacity for determining his own destiny in opposition to the power of fate, which has been interpreted as the political philosophy that one may resort to any means in order to establish and preserve total authority. The work has been regarded as a handbook for politicians on the use of ruthlessness, self-serving, cunning, and inspired the term Machiavellian. While many believe that the book's title character, the Prince, was based upon the infamous Cesare Borgia, some scholars consider it satire. Pope Clement VIII condemned the Prince for its endorsement of rule by deceit and fear. One excerpt from the book reads, "Since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved." One of the real-life models Machiavelli took inspiration from when writing The Prince was Cesare Borgia, a crude, brutal, and cunning prince of the Papal States, whom Machiavelli had observed firsthand. During a visit with Borgia to discuss relations with Florence, Machiavelli witnessed as Borgia lured his enemies to the city of Senigallia with gifts and promises of friendship, and then had them all assassinated. Ultimately, even Borgia would succumb to ill fortune when his father, Pope Alexander VI, became ill and died. Borgia died a few years after the death of his father at the age of 32. Despite Borgia's premature demise, Machiavelli believed that a strong leader like Borgia was just what Florence needed to raise morale, unite the people, and raise the city-state's prominence to its former glory. Years after writing The Prince, Machiavelli penned The Art of War, a treatise written in the form of a dialogue between a military expert and citizens. The Art of War discusses the role that citizens have in supporting and using military troops to the citizens' advantage. The role in training and the best use of artillery is disarming one's enemies. Drawing on themes he introduced in The Prince, Machiavelli also notes how deception and intrigue are valuable military strategies. Machiavelli would be blamed for inspiring Henry VIII, for example, to defy the Pope and seize religious authority for himself, while William Shakespeare would cite Machiavelli as the murderous Machiavel in Henry VI, and many of his characters would embody Machiavellian traits. Finally, leaders must not rely on luck, Machiavelli wrote, but should shape their own fortune through charisma, cunning, and force. As Machiavelli saw it, there were two main variables in life: fortune and virtù. Virtù, not virtue, means bravery, power, and the ability to impose one's own will. Fortune, he wrote, was like a violent river that can flood and destroy the earth. But when it is quiet, leaders can use their free will to prepare for and conquer the rough river of fate. An effective leader, Machiavelli wrote, maximizes virtù and minimalizes the role of fortune. This way, fortune favors the brave. Until Machiavelli's writing, most philosophers of politics had defined a good leader as humble, moral, and honest. Machiavelli shed that notion, saying frankly, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot have both." Cruelty can be better than kindness, he argued, explaining that making an example of one or two offenders is kinder than being too compassionate and allowing disorders to develop into murder and chaos, which affects the whole community. Keeping one's word can also be dangerous, he said, since experience shows that those who do not keep their word get the better of those who do. Moreover, Machiavelli also believed that when leaders are not moral, it's important that they pretend that they are to keep up appearances. A prince must always seem to be very moral, even if he is not, he wrote. And that's all I have for Machiavelli.
All right, that was very insightful. Thank you.
It's crazy that Machiavelli was like against Cesare Borgia in this game. Like, it makes it like so anticlimactic, but at the same time, like. You see a perspective of like, what if Machiavelli was against Cesare Borgia? What do you guys think?
I mean, I think that maybe the choice was made because one of the things that the assassins do is being sneaky and using, brains over brawn. And I think in popular imagination, like Machiavelli has kind of become the icon that, or at least it's like a household name that people will know when you talk about something that is schemy or someone that is very schemy and doesn't go, let's say, the official ways. So maybe that's why the choice was made. Also, I mean, making him the real person that he was in real life would have been quite not as flattering as it is in Assassin's Creed. Because he was a fanboy of Cesare Borgia, who was, by all intents and purposes, a terrible person. So,
That is very subjective.
Well, I mean, he was a great commander. That is without a doubt. But by his own contemporaries, he was considered a depraved man. For good reasons. But they also hated his father, so.
In his own gravestone, the inscription reads here lies a man that all feared, and I'm like, damn, what a thing to write on the tombstone.
That is also a very ancient Roman thing to write, like, let them hate me as long as they fear me. So it is very honest.
Sorry, to be honest, instead of discussing, which I kind of agree with Amit, but we're going to have a section about Cesare, so yeah, let's just wait until that part, and we can let the viewers make up their minds about him, because we're going to have cold hard facts that are undeniable. So
yeah, if you guys have any opinions about the topics we cover, just write it in the chat. We'll discuss it. Anyhow, by the way, forgot to mention, we are also doing trivia topics every 2 topics of Assassin's Creed landmarks, figures, or events that we cover, and we are doing a giveaway that will happen in the middle of the stream and at the end of the stream of Assassin's Creed Valhalla Ultimate Edition for US and Europe only. So just let me know where you're from, and I'll get in touch with you. I just wanted to do that PSA pretty quickly. Without further ado, let's go over a brief history of Rome that Amit will cover for you guys. Take it away, Amit.
Hi, thank you. Yes, this is going to be a gargantuan effort. Try to condense the history of Rome from foundation to 1500s in 10 minutes, 15 minutes. But I will do my best.
No pressure.
Or maybe 8 minutes, like the synchronization requirement for the Halls of Nero.
Mm-hmm.
So Rome, the area of Rome has been inhabited since the Stone Age. We have huts from the Stone Age. We have huts from the Neolithic, so slightly later. One fun fact is that the Romans, when Rome became a city, also found traces of these prehistoric huts. And they decided that those were actually the huts of Romulus and his companions. And so they did some sort of archaeological preservation / tourist trap sort of thing, in which they put fences and sacred objects around this ancient stuff and had people pay to go see them. So that is tourist trap 101. It is in the tradition of Rome. The area of Rome is on 7 hills. Nobody really agrees on which 7 we need to consider, because there is more than 7. But the ones to remember for our purposes are the Palatine, which is the one where the first settlement was set, and the Capitoline, which is the one on which they would then build some of the most important temples. And then, not hills, but equally important, the Forum, which was the cow market, and the Campus Martius, which was a swamp that was then drained and used for military exercises and also military executions. The traditional foundation date of Rome is 753 BCE. Yes, that precise. Yes, that is also completely fake. We have traces of the ancient city from around that time, but we cannot pinpoint a date or a day, although ancient historians love to do that, but all the sources are suspiciously late and suspiciously Augustan in that sense, so pinch of salt there. The story of the foundation starts basically from the Trojan War. Prince Aeneas, who's the son of Venus, runs away from flaming Troy, bringing the gods with him. He lands in Italy. There's a war. He wins the war. His son will found the city of Alba Longa, and then centuries later, from the city of Alba Longa, a Vestal virgin, Rhea Silvia, will have two twins with the god Mars. So we got Venus on one side and Mars on the other. How convenient. And these two twins are, of course, Romulus and Remus. She has to expose them because she's not supposed to have children. They are found by a she-wolf and a shepherd, and they are raised. Questions about whether the she-wolf is an actual she-wolf or, the colloquial name for a prostitute. We cannot unpack that, but keep it at the back of the mind. But the Romans own the fact that they are the children of the she-wolf, and the she-wolf is in the earliest representations that the Romans make of themselves. She is kind of their totemic animal. The first centuries of the city are those of a monarchy. There are 7 kings in succession. Some are Romans, some are Sabines, which is another population that is around there. Some are Etruscans, which are then become the greatest enemies of Rome. At the end of this series of kings, Brutus, whose armor we were wearing in the first memory, ousts the last king, and Rome finally becomes a republic. And they basically start to fight against everyone. All of the neighbors, the Etruscans, the Sabines, the Latins, the Volscans, everyone. The Gauls on top of Italy. They end in the 4th century. They tried to take control of Italy. In the 3rd century and 2nd century BCE, we have, of course, the Carthaginian Wars and the Macedonian Wars over in Greece. At the end of these, in 146 BCE, Rome is basically the superpower of the Mediterranean. Carthage is no more. Greece is no more. A lot of other kingdoms in the east are still there, but Rome is working on it. After these wars, there's a century long of civil wars. There are at least 3 against the allies, and then internal strife, because the way in which power works in Rome gives way to these local, we would say warlords, that try to get more and more power. Of course, the most famous of these ones is Julius Caesar, who allegedly refuses to become king. He is the author of great military successes all around Northern Europe. I mean, France, some in Spain. He also commits genocide, so we need to be very clear about that. He's killed in 44 BCE because the Romans don't want a king. Big joke, because Caesar's successor, who is Octavian, who will then become Augustus, actually proclaims himself emperor. So he changes completely the shape of the government. In 27 BCE, he becomes emperor officially. Before that, in 31 BCE, he defeats our good friend Cleopatra in the Battle of Actium and conquers Egypt. And at that point, usually we consider that the end of the Hellenistic period and the start of the Imperial Roman period. Imperial Rome becomes completely something else. Augustus starts, he says in his own will, I found Rome made of mud brick and I left it made of marble. Bullshit, but but he liked to think about that. And it is true that he starts rebuilding and embellishing and adding things as a whole architectural and artistic program that he makes. He builds the first iteration of the Pantheon, which we will see later in the stream. He rebuilds the Forum. He makes Caesar into a god. He builds temples to the ancestors of his dynasty, temples to Aeneas, temples to Romulus. And that dynasty ends poorly with Nero, who was a terrible emperor, an okay singer, an okay actor, and definitely not the author of The Great Fire of Rome, but he did take advantage of that to rebuild a giant, let's say, royal palace for himself, and a giant statue of himself as the sun god, naked, with a crown, next to a lake, which will then become the Colosseum. So after Nero is ousted, and there's a whole mess with 4 emperors in 1 year, a new dynasty takes power. It's a father and 2 sons. They are the ones who actually build the Colosseum. They drain the lake, they rebuild the Colosseum, which, the real name is Amphitheater Flavian. We'll see that later. But Colosseum refers to the Colossus that was next to it. They are also the emperors under whom Pompeii is destroyed because the Vesuvius explodes. After this dynasty, we have the best, one of the best dynasties, the so-called good emperors. They do not pass power from father to son, but they adopt the best candidate, which seems to work very well. In 117 BCE, the Roman Empire is at its largest. It goes from Spain to all the way to Romania, Mesopotamia, Germany. It's large. And as all big things, it cannot last long, so it starts shrinking because power starts becoming a difficult thing. This dynasty ends poorly with Commodus, who was a great gladiator but a terrible emperor. There are riots, there are infights. There is a good start of the next dynasty, which is the one that everyone forgets, is the Severan dynasty. That also ends in blood, though, because at this point, maintaining imperial power is impossible. The 3rd century is a mess, and everything goes wrong everywhere. There are invasions, there are riots, there's intrigues, there's betrayal, there's backstabbing. 2 emperors come out on top of this. The first is Aurelian, who gets the title of Restitutor Orbis, so the one who gave back the world. And he's the one who builds, for the first time, new walls. Rome hadn't had new walls since 400 BCE. And the other one is, of course, Diocletian, who puts a patch on things, but he also enacts terrible persecutions on Christians, and he divides the empire in 4. There's supposed to be 2 emperors and 2 vice-emperors. And at this point, in 293 CE, the emperor is basically split in 2. It doesn't stay split in 4th, let's say, for too long, because when Constantine, who was one of the 2nd generation of 4 rulers, wins against his rival at Ponte Milvio in 324, he decides that enough is enough, and he's gonna just retire and take all the power to Constantinople, which he renames as himself, because he was such a humble man. And so Rome is not capital anymore, and it keeps being sacked. It's sacked in 410, 455, 472, and at least in 476, some agree that that's the end of the Roman Empire, the Western Roman Empire, because the last official emperor is deposed. But nobody really cares, because at that point, the imperial power in the West is not really important anymore. Local power is much more, and life doesn't change that much during the 5th century. The 6th century is more of a mess, because the Eastern Roman Empire tries to reconquer Italy and fight the Goths, the Ostrogoths, that were the rulers at the time. And it doesn't end well for anyone. Rome is retaken and then taken back again. It is sacked again twice. There are, local kings and local popes. The papacy starts getting more and more powerful because there is a power vacuum, and so a religious figure becomes a political figure. So much so that in 800, Charlemagne, the king of the Franks, is crowned Holy Roman Emperor by the Pope in Rome, against the will of the Eastern Roman Empire that really did not want to deal with that. In later years in that century, Rome is sacked once again. New walls are built, but they're really not useful. In 1084, it is sacked once more by very Catholic Normans. So this is just to say that not everyone who's sacking Rome is a barbarian. And then in the 1300s, Rome is caught up in what we call the Comuni fights and the fight for the bishops. So the Pope and the Emperor are at odds on who is to mint new bishops and new noblemen, and everyone in Italy is fighting. Every city is taking sides. Every nobleman in every city is taking fights. In 1300s, the first jubilee is proclaimed in Rome, so it becomes a point of pilgrimage. But in 1307, the seat of the Pope is moved from Rome to Avignon in France. There is a short bout of republic that doesn't last well. In 1377, the Pope is back, and at this point, Rome needs to be rebuilt. And in 1400s and 1500s, we are in what we call the Rinascimento, which is a rebirth. The popes come back and decide to rebuild Rome. I hate to give them credit for it, but they do. The popes, cardinals, and noblemen become patrons of the art, and they decide to embellish the city and study the antiquities, because the antiquities had always been there. So these people great artists start to find ancient statues. For instance, when they find the Laocoon, Michelangelo looks at it and tries to study, the composition and the anatomy and everything else. And everyone is funding artists to build private things, fountains, churches, new buildings. A new St. Peter's, church is commissioned. The whole Vatican City becomes, full of marbles and beautiful things. The Sistine Chapel is built and painted. So 1400 and 1500s Rome was the place to be for artists, intellectuals, cardinals, of course, for obvious reasons, and also some scandalous figures, because where there is power and there is money, there are also scandals. So there is where we are. I am at 14 minutes. I'm going to stop here. So this is the context in which, someone like Machiavelli can thrive, but also someone like Leonardo can thrive, because this is not only a religious center, but also a cultural capital, a cultural center for life in Western Europe. And now I'm going to take a breath.
Well, that was very well done. Thanks for the lesson.
Thank you. I mean, that was very, very educational on all fronts of Rome. Yeah. Rome has an extensive history that goes until I think it was 1453 when it was finally sacked. But I think even then, you have the Renaissance after that.
1453 for some people is the end of the Roman Empire, because that's when Constantinople falls.
Yeah, exactly. As we covered in AC Revelations stream. If you guys want to check that out, shameless plug, go check it out. It's really cool.
But that is a curse, but also a blessing for people in the Western Roman Empire. Well, in what had been the Western Roman Empire, because all the scholars run west and they bring the texts. So that is also why Rome becomes a cultural capital, because everyone is bringing Greek stuff that I had no idea existed. So they start studying the text and they start translating them, and it's fantastic. This is like a whole other topic, but I just wanted to put it there.
Hey, you guys should just be glad. We could have been talking about the founding of Rome for a while. It's just always fun to talk about the burning loins of Dido, but that's just...
Oh, well, I mean, listen, book 4, that's a soap opera. Book 4 of the Aeneid. I'm a fan.
Okay,
drink water.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone drink water. Everyone that is also watching the stream, don't forget to hydrate yourselves. We have covered 2 topics already, so maybe we can go with the first question from the quiz.
Yeah. Let me see. Are you doing the quiz stuff?
Yeah.
Anna? Yeah.
Okay, so I have the first question here already, and it's about, of course, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. And the question is, what was the name of the Madame of the Rosenfiore before Claudia took over?
That's a deep question, dude.
We have a mission exclusively about her, so people should remember that.
Yeah. We're about to go in that mission, by the way. Because the next topic we're covering are the courtesans, which is pretty cool. I can't wait for it.
Okay, so before we begin, I'm going to put the multiple choice on the chat, so everyone can see it. Damn it! I didn't write it very well. It's A. Madonna Giulietta, B. Madonna Solari, C. Madonna Margherita, and D. Madonna Livia.
Well, I know, but I'm gonna let the chat go ahead. You know.
That is not correct, Meg. Actually, I'm surprised that you didn't get this one. So I'm going to let Arsh answer, I think, because
Madonna Solari.
It is Madonna Solari.
I just needed to know the name in order for the memory to be triggered for me.
I just remember the courtesan screaming, Madonna Solari, just running around because they had kidnapped her. But we're going to see that now, so yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we are gonna cover. We're gonna cover the courtesans in the Italian Renaissance. What were they like? Things, you know. What did people think about them? Let's find out. So let's see here. Alrighty, so we are in the memory, and let's go. So, the courtesans of the Italian Renaissance enjoyed privileges far above the rights of ordinary women in that time. Though they were classified into two categories. These two groups of courtesans were prominent in cities like Venice and Rome. The two groups that they were categorized in were the low-ranking courtesans, which were called the Correggiani di Lume. Sorry if I butchered that. In Italian, that is the courtesan of the light. And the high-ranking courtesans called Cortigiani Oneste in Italian. That is translated to honest courtesan in English. So first, the low-ranking courtesans. They were poor and cheap, and worked near the Rialto Bridge, actually, in Venice. So the thing, like, you know, whenever you visit Rialto Bridge, remember that? I don't know, but anyway, the high-ranking courtesans, who you see in AC Brotherhood a lot, were the ones that had education, they had style, intellect, and they used it to gain considerable political influence, and they got rich out of it. Unlike women in the 16th century, who had to follow crucial social rules and moral laws, courtesans were able to break free of the social norms, dressing as vibrant as they could, being the precursors to the modern woman of today. In Italy at this time, any woman would either end up in an arranged marriage or in a convent, while courtesans were free and independent to do what they desired. It's important to pay attention to this double standard here, because courtesans truly were the precursors of the modern woman today, being free and independent in their way. Courtesans also, quote-unquote, offered themselves to men not as a common prostitute, whose favors were strictly sexual, but as an educated and skillful conversationalist. Prominent figures who visited courtesans would be admirers like Lorenzo de' Medici, Titian, Raphael, even cardinals and dukes. You're actually going to see a cardinal with a courtesan later on, with Juan Borgia being one. The Sanskrit shows cardinals with courtesans too, just like the one I just told you about in the Juan Borgia assassination that we are going to see. Courtesans were also sophisticated. They were skilled in singing, playing music, and composing poetry. They were free to do or speak as they pleased, whereas even noblewomen had their restrictions on what they could speak about. They entered aristocratic circles, as mentioned above, and were much more educated compared to the teachings that poor or noble women got. Much of the courtesan education was gained through their day-to-day conversations with the aristocrats of Italy or their brothers, or even their mothers would raise their child to be a courtesan, because by the time that they finished being a courtesan, basically courtesans had to do with the beauty, so it became a family thing where even daughters became courtesans. But yeah, getting back into the topic, foreigners wouldn't know the difference between a courtesan and a noblewoman, actually. When concerns came that it hurt the noblewoman's honor, rules stated courtesans shouldn't wear silk, silver, gold, necklaces, pearls, or rings. This wasn't taken seriously, and courtesans just continued doing what they were doing. Honest courtesans, which were also almost untouchable when they had aristocrats that vouched for them, even from the laws. So the laws that were put, made them kind of not it made them untouchable, but once the aristocrats died, that's when they were in trouble. Their spending on their dresses, as you see, their dresses are very authentic. They showed individual, they spent on their dresses so that they can show individual identity, visual attention, and that they had big wealth. Courtesan dresses in AC Brotherhood are beautifully made, putting this thing like
I ran on commercials for years.
It helps with us reasoning why they were high-ranking courtesans dressed as such. Sadly, when big social and economic disturbances happened, i.e. plagues, they were conveniently blamed as symbols of disorder and vileness. Why was prostitution legal, though, in the Italian Renaissance? Well, because courtesans created a source of revenue for the cities they were in. That would be Venice or Rome, because these cities taxed heavily on the prostitution front. Now, even though they lived in the age where the Inquisition happened, their political connections got them out of sticky situations. But once their political connections died, again, they were left to themselves, or they just transferred their skills onto their daughters. But yeah, as a woman of the Italian Renaissance, the courtesans lived in the culture, in the as an ordinary woman right now, which is pretty cool to see a precursor of an ordinary woman. And that concludes my research on courtesans.
Nice, thanks a lot, Ash.
For sure. We have another thing. Now we have a historical figure to cover, which would be Caterina Sforza. Let me see here. Are we ready to go into Caterina Sforza? Because her memory is amazing.
I think we are ready, yes. That Sark only has to start the memory. I think he's right next to it. So
okay. Cool. Let's go. Well, you guys know Caterina Sforza from AC2 and AC Brotherhood. But AC shows her as strong of a woman as she actually was in real life, which is pretty cool. Like, I really got interested in Caterina Sforza, and I took an Italian Renaissance class just to know more about the Sforzas, and then I got to know more about the Italian Renaissance, which is pretty educational. Anywho, Caterina Sforza defied the powers of Rome, the Borgias, by being a capable leader herself. In 1484, Pope Sixtus the Fourth died, and it meant papal power grab was possible. Everyone was going for his nephew, Girolamo Riario. He had to defend his power in Rome, but he couldn't be in Rome because he was being targeted. Caterina, his wife, who was 7 months pregnant by then, went to defend the Riario name in Rome. Where did she defend it? Well, none other place than Castel Sant'Angelo. Caterina commanded her forces to seize Rome's Castel Sant'Angelo. She fortified the Castel and bought time so Riario can strike a deal. After he did, the deal gave them 8,000 ducats and recognition of their estates in Imola and Forli. Unfortunately, as depicted in-game in AC2, Riario was murdered in 1488, leaving Caterina to secure Forli, and she did. Acting regent to her son, she lowered taxes in Forli to gain favor with her people and took charge of the military. she also formed strong alliances and secured that secured her fully. Now, talking about Caterina as being smart in making alliances, I think it can connect to why she made alliances with Ezio for political protection.
You have a family.
It is
But
not your family.
the thing, she also was a leader who like
That night at the
sometimes sacrificed her own people for the good of Forli. She wasn't always fair, but was close to what like Machiavelli talks about in being the prince in this case. Like, you know, she was like a very powerful figure as a woman back then. But talking about where Ezio enters her life as a political protection, Ezio sees her right as she took control of Forli after her husband's death in Assassin's Creed 2. Historically, she made alliances to keep her regency seat to her son secured, hence the Ezio alliance, as I talked about. But now we move into Caterina and the Borgias. Rodrigo Borgia wanted to absorb Forli and Imola to expand the Papal States. Caterina wouldn't have it. She, quote-unquote, began expanding her defenses. She improved the weaponry of Forli and created large stores of food and ammunition. Cesare Borgia threatened the lives of Caterina's kids in 1499 if she didn't give up Forli, as the Orsi, who were an actual family, were allied with the Borgia. Of course, in the iconic scene in the DLC, she refused. This moment is depicted amazingly in AC2, as it is the moment where legend has it, she said, "Kill them if you will. I have the means to make many more. You will never make me surrender." In January 12th, 1500, unfortunately, Caterina fought hard against Borgia, but she lost. Now we move into her imprisonment. So Caterina wanted to be in custody of the King of France. Borgia didn't let. The reason because is that France had a rule where you can't imprison women in women in war, like, you know, you can't capture women in war, but like she thought she could be sneaky, but France, owing to Cesare Borgia, who was in command of their armies, just like let Caterina go to Cesare Borgia. So there was that, and so let me see here. So Rodrigo even mentioned that Caterina had written about poisoning him twice, hence the imprisonment, because you had to put in some type of reasoning to imprison her. So she tried to escape, but was imprisoned for 2 years in Castel Sant'Angelo, the place she defended. Now, in the Tigers of Forli book, which I truly recommend you guys read. It's a book by Elizabeth Lev, and it is amazing. It states that Cesare boastfully planned his parade in the style of the ancient Roman emperors. He'd done more than Augustus. He not only defeated his version of Cleopatra, but he brought her back to Rome as a trophy alive. I mean, that's going to be interesting to compare Caterina to Cleopatra bringing AC Brotherhood and AC Origins together. But on February 26th, she was not paraded. Pope Alexander had made sure she was away from the spectacles, and she was imprisoned in Belvedere Palace. The Borgias pressured her daily to sign over her claims to Forli and Imola, promising her freedom, a new home, reunion with her children, but Caterina refused day after day. She refused so much that Cesare moved her to the papal dungeon after trying to escape, as you saw in AC Brotherhood. Caterina's cell was small and uncomfortable. They allowed only 2 serving women to help her out. She lived in cramped quarters, ate little, afraid of poison, wondered if she was gonna be smothered into death, actually. Like, wow. I think, unfortunately, fortunately, Cesare knew that killing Caterina would have disastrous ramifications because she was a Florentine citizen, she was related to the Medici family, and she was famed in the public to the point of their intrigue of her whereabouts. She was a national icon of her day. The French army also admired her and would fight for her, but because they were obligated to Cesare, this is what happens. We'll go more over on Cesare later on, but this didn't stop Cesare from playing his sadistic pranks on her. In one instance, she was roughly awakened and brought to the gallows, where Cesare told her it's the day of her execution. Only he hanged 2 prisoners who were poisoners of Rodrigo Borgia, Pope Alexander, and he told her that her life was bought by them. This speaks to Cesare's sadistic nature and like the experiences that Caterina had while being imprisoned. Even Caterina's children were not on her side because they were seeking positions themselves in the papal circles and wanted their mother to actually give in. They even gave in after hearing her failed escape. Now in Assassin's Creed you see a successful escape, but it's an interpretation. But regardless, Caterina didn't give in. She never gave in. Eventually, she was able to leave the jurisdictions of the Borgia family after much negotiations, where Caterina would live just a quiet life afterwards. I think also her companions during this imprisonment were Don Fortunati and Abbot Loro, who helped her spirit thrive through this horrible experience that she suffered. So, yeah, that's Caterina Sforza for you, a fierce woman in a man's world.
That was very nice. Thanks a lot.
For sure.
Okay, so perfect, because Sark has just finished the mission. So maybe we can do another quiz question, and then we can continue with Leonardo da Vinci.
Let's go. Let's do it.
Okay, you have to choose the game.
Okay. I have to choose the game. Let's go with Assassin's Creed 2. Why not?
Okay. In which of the following locations there isn't an assassin tomb? A. Monteriggioni. B. San Gimignano. C. Forlì. Or D. The Vatican.
Ezio. Leonardo.
Hmm.
I knew you were behind the break-in at Sant'Angelo. It is good to see
Interesting.
Come here.
I think I know the answer, but I'm gonna let people.
I'm going to put the answers
The
actually
Borgia have
on
commandeered my services.
the chat.
Actually, they would have killed me had I refused.
Okay.
What do they want?
So A. Monteriggioni, B. San Gimignano,
I've constructed
C.
weapons for all
Forlì,
the
and
Borgia
D.
guards
The
and
Vatican.
other terrible monstrosities besides. They are very well designed, Ezio. Here, the names of the Templars overseeing their construction. Cesare intends to supply his army with my creations. You must dismantle them.
Grazie. I will take care of the plans and the machines.
There is far graver news, I am afraid. They have the apple.
Yes, I know. I gave the apple to Mario.
I am sorry, Ezio. Cesare left it in my hands to study, to make it work. Then Rodrigo took it from me. I know not where.
I will recover it in time. Leonardo, I have lost all the codex inventions you once fashioned for me.
Remaking them will be easy. I never forget the design. But you must compensate me for the raw material.
Really? They're not paying you at Il Vaticano?
Very, very little. If we are to do this,
We're playing with
we must
Leonardo's
not meet
memory right now.
It's a cutscene right now. Hasn't started the memory itself.
So
Okay. Zark, can you pause the memory because I think we haven't gone over Leonardo yet. Just a second.
By the way, for the trivia question, anyone can answer. If people from the co-hosts themselves want to answer, Sark, Amit, historian's perspective, anyone can answer. Not Arsh, because Arsh just guessed the other one, or Meg that is in the chat, I think.
Well, technically, Monteriggioni doesn't have a tomb, it has a sanctuary. So it's partially a trick question, but I believe the answer they're looking for is the Vatican.
Yes, so the Vatican is correct. Monteriggioni does have a tomb, though. It has the two tombs of ancestors of Ezio. So it is a sanctuary, that's true.
Right. It's the special mission.
Yeah, it's a special mission.
It tells the history of the Auditore family, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's the one.
So Monteriggioni was not a thing, huh?
I'm sorry?
Was Monteriggioni an assassin tomb?
Yeah, there is one.
Yeah.
But
I
it's
guess
not
that's
it's not one where you get the key or anything. It's just one where you, like historian's perspective said, that you relive. You learn a little bit about the backstory of the Auditore.
Oh, okay. Got it. I was away for a second. I am back.
Okay, let's keep going
Yeah.
then.
Alright. Well, which mission do you guys want to do? Which war mission do you guys want to do for the Leonardo topic, guys?
Pick a siege engine.
Yeah. So, which war mission do you guys wanna?
People already answered before in the chat to your question, which one was the favorite, and Team Actihana and Meg coincide in the tank. So.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah, I should be updated with the chat. Let me see. Oh boy, I just updated the chat. All right, let's do the tank mission. Do you want me to cover it? The thing. Zark. Let me see. I think Zark's audio is having problems, so I'll happily cover it. Let me see here. Okay, guys, let's start the Leonardo da Vinci part of this stream. So, our boy Leonardo was born on April 15, 1452, in the Tuscan hill town of Vinci. Hence, Leonardo da Vinci. He was the illegitimate son of Messer Piero Porosino di Antonio da Vinci, a Florentine notary, and his mother was named also Caterina. She was a peasant who may have been a slave from the Middle East. Leonardo had no surname in the modern sense. Da Vinci, simply meaning of Venice, his full birth name was Leonardo di Ser Piero da Vinci, meaning Leonardo, son of Messer Piero from Vinci. Very, very practical use of lineage names. Now, in 1466, at the age of 14, Leonardo was apprenticed to one of the most successful artists of his day, Andrea del Verrocchio. Under Verrocchio's tutelage, Leonardo was exposed to drawing, painting, sculpting, and modeling, as well as a vast range of technical skills, and had the opportunity to learn drafting, chemistry, metallurgy, metalworking, plaster casting, leatherworking, mechanics, and carpentry. All what humanity can do without being focused on social media for a long time. God, he had a lot of skills. Anyway, it is assumed that Leonardo had his own workshop in Florence between 1476 and 1481. He was commissioned to paint an altarpiece in 1478 for the chapel of Saint Bernard and the Adoration of the Magi in 1481 for the monks of San Donato Sopeto.
Yes.
So Leonardo continued to work in Milan between 1482 and 1499. He was commissioned to paint the Virgin of the Rocks for the Confraternity of the Immaculate Conception and the Last Supper for the Monastery of Santa Maria del Grazie. He also came under the service of Ludovico Sforza, Il Moro, the Duke of Milan. For Ludovico, Leonardo designed a dome for the Milan Cathedral and a huge bronze cast horse statue dedicated to Ludovico's successor, Francesco. However, in the midst of invasion from French forces under Charles VIII, in November 1494, the bronze allocated for the statue was instead used to forge cannons. Unfortunately, that's why we don't have the landmark. However, there are ongoing projects to bring the statue into fruition today, which is super cool. Leonardo eventually returned to Florence in 1500. In 1502, Leonardo entered the service of Cesare Borgia, the son of Pope Alexander the sixth. No, Pope Alexander the Fourth. What's God? I'm having a brain fart. What's VI? That's fourth, right? guys?
VI is 6.
6? VI. Oh yeah, VI is 6. Oh yeah. 5 plus 1. Got. Okay. Well, Alexander the Sixth, of course. Rodrigo Borgia, acting as a military architect. Leonardo acted as a military architect and engineer and traveled throughout Italy with his patron. That was only for a year, though. Like what you see over here happened over a year. It didn't happen over like a long time. Anyway, between 1506 and 1508, Leonardo bounced between Milan for business and Florence for his father's passing and to settle the affairs regarding his father's estate. Between 1513 and 1516, Leonardo lived in the Belvedere in the Vatican in Rome, where Raphael and Michelangelo were both active at the time. Imagine three minds active at the same time at the same place. That is so cool. Anyway, in October 1515, Francois I of France recaptured Milan and by 1516, Leonardo entered under his service. That is Francois I of France's service. Leonardo died in France on May 2nd, 1519. Now that we're done with his biography, let's go over his war machines. First, let's start with the tank, the mission that we're doing right now. So, the precursor to the modern tank, Leonardo da Vinci's armored car invention was capable of moving in any direction and was equipped with a large number of weapons. The most famous of da Vinci's war machines, the armored car, was designed to intimidate and scatter an opposing army. Da Vinci's vehicle has a number of light cannons arranged on a circular platform with wheels that allow for 360-degree range. The platform is covered by a large protective cover, much like a turtle shell, reinforced with metal plates, which was to be slanted to better deflect enemy fire. There is a sighting turret on top to coordinate the firing of the cannons and the steering of the vehicle. The motion of the machine was to be powered by 8 men inside the tank who would constantly turn cranks to spin the wheels. Leonardo suggested in his notes that the thought of using horses for power crossed his mind, but he dismissed it because he feared the animals would become too unpredictable in the confines of the tank. Despite its elaborate design, Da Vinci's tank has a major flaw. The powering cranks went in opposite directions. This made forward motion impossible. Scholars suggest such a basic engineering flaw would never have escaped the detail-oriented mind of Leonardo da Vinci, and that he may have inserted the flaw intentionally. A pacifist at heart, Da Vinci might have sabotaged his own design to discourage the war machine from ever being built. That is pretty cool. Like building this whole thing and then just halting it because you don't want to obliterate humanity so soon. But we do it now. Yay, humanity. Anyhow, let's move forward with another of his machines, the machine gun. Now, attempting to increase the firepower of a traditional cannon, Leonardo designed a 12-barreled gun carriage. Though hardly capable of rapid fire, this design housed an ingenious aiming and loading mechanism. The The fan-like shape made it a potentially effective weapon against massed advancing troops by wielding the field of fire and reducing possible mistakes. Additionally, its lightweight and large wheels would have provided for excellent mobility on the battlefield, as you're going to see later on. The aim of the tiers is that in rotation, the first tier is fired, while the second tier can be loaded. This allows for the third tier to cool down before its turn in the rotation to be loaded and fired again. Now that I'm done with the machine gun, let's go over the flying machines that you guys love a lot. Anyway, the flying machines were among the many subjects Leonardo studied. He was intrigued in the possibility of human mechanical flight, and it held a particular fascination for him. He produced more than 35,000 words and 500 sketches dealing with flying machines, the nature of air and bird flight. These investigations of flight are scattered throughout the many Da Vinci codices and manuscript collections, but he did produce one short codex almost entirely on the subject in 1505 to 1506, which was the codex on the flight of birds. Leonardo's interest in flight appears to have stemmed from his extensive work on military technology, which he performed in the employment of the Milanese court. Leonardo's focus on military technology and tactics led him to the idea of aerial reconnaissance. Once engaged with the notion of a flying machine, it became an obsession for him. For most of Leonardo's aeronautical designs were ornithopters, machines that employed flapping wings to generate both lift and propulsion, like the flying machines featured in Brotherhood and Assassin's Creed 2. He sketched such flying machines with a pilot prone, standing vertically, using both his legs and arms. He drew detailed sketches of flapping wing mechanisms and means for actuating them. Imaginative as these designs were, the fundamental barriers to an ornithopter is the demonstrably limited muscle power and endurance that of humans compared to birds. Leonardo could never have overcome this basic fact of human physiology. He even mentioned it that, nature has not made it so. Interestingly, most of these avian mimicking designs predated Leonardo's serious study of bird flight, which we find in the Codex on the Flight of Birds begun in 1505. In this work, compiled during the same period as the Mona Lisa was painted, Leonardo discusses the crucial concept of the relationship between the center of gravity and the center of lifting pressure on a bird's wing. He explains the behavior of birds as they ascend against the wind, foreshadowing the modern concept of a stall. He demonstrates a rudimentary understanding of the relationship between a curved wing section and lift. Leonardo makes insightful observations of gliding flight by birds and the way in which they balance themselves with their wings and tail, just as the Wright brothers would do eventually in their aeronautical designs later on. The Wright brothers were responsible for human flight. Well, I think we wouldn't have airplanes because of the Wright. We wouldn't have airplanes if it was not for the Wright brothers. He also comments on the pilot's position in a potential flying machine and how control could be achieved by shifting the body weight, precisely as the early glider pioneers of the 19th century would do. He notes the importance of lightweight structures that aircraft would require, and he also hints at the force Newton would later define as gravity. In his many war machines and many contributions to humanity, Leonardo was above all interested in creativity and ingenuity. He was a man born in the wrong century. He would have been a big time inventor of this age, but because he lived in the Italian Renaissance, we have knowledge that that sees that humanity was like thinking of modern ideas way before. But whatever that he had designs for wasn't potentially made because, well, we don't have any proof of that. But anywho, this concludes my part about Zark's research about Leonardo da Vinci. We just got to the tanks. Nice.
Okay, that was very nice, Arsh.
Yeah, thank you.
We're not done with the mission. Actually, Sark still has to go through all that, that valley, that canyon, and then still has to fight the other tanks.
Well, so... Zark, can due to time restrictions, can you please just move on to the Pantheon? Is that cool with you guys?
Yeah, shouldn't be a problem. Just move on to the next memory.
Yep.
Some of the topics we have today are rather long, some are shorter.
Yeah. Because we are like halfway through our research, and we need to get on it. Okay.
Question: if we're halfway, isn't it time for one of the giveaways?
We're not halfway just yet. It's after the Pantheon for the giveaway.
Okay, right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I cannot believe you would just do this.
There is a condition.
I knew it.
Keep an eye on the politics of the city. I want you to report back to Maria at Rosa in Fiore about targets who are helping.
Who's raiding into the Pantheon then?
And what? You'll make them disappear?
Got it. Well, let's this is the Pantheon mission, right?
I will follow you to the banker.
Let's see here. Is this the Pantheon mission?
Yes, it is. He has to deliver follow Heliotroki, and he reaches the Pantheon, and he has to enter it and then descend and kill Luigi.
Oh, okay, got it. I got you. All right. Well, let's go over the Pantheon. I'll cover the Pantheon's history, legend, and purpose, and then cover it from its dome to the grounds, just like how Ezio sneaked from top to bottom. Anywho, the first Pantheon was built around 25 BC by Agrippa, prefect and best friend of the first Roman Emperor Augustus. Though it caught on fire around 80 BC. The second Pantheon was rebuilt by Domitian, but again, thunder strikes burned it again. Now, the third time was the charm. Emperor Hadrian rebuilt the Pantheon in the same place the other two were, but legend has it that the Pantheon's setting is where Romulus, at his death, was seized by an eagle and taken off into the skies with the gods. Now, why would the Pantheon have the title of the Pantheon? Well, because this temple was a temple to the gods, not one god. In Latin, pan means all, and theos means gods, so Pantheon. Agrippa's temple was open to all. Itself a cultural revolution because it was the first time temples were no longer limited to just priests. In Latin, temple is templum, which meant delimited space, limited to sacred people only. The Pantheon said no. Worship was for all. People were allowed to worship all gods in it. It's the temple that connected earth and heavens together. Normally a temple was dedicated to a certain god, as you see in like AC Odyssey, I think, or like AC Origins. The Pantheon was built for all gods. It could think so. It is pretty cool. Well, now I'm gonna go over the facts of the architecture of the Pantheon. Now, when sun rays hit through the oculus of the Pantheon, which is like that circular shape above it, which itself is a perfect center of the dome, the sun rays moved across the Pantheon like a sundial. It was thought to be a movement of heavens to people. In fact, the Pantheon was perfect in its architecture. The rotunda, which is the vast hall of the Pantheon, measured 43.2 meters, and that is 141.7 feet in diameter. Exactly the maximum height of the dome, itself a perfect hemisphere. Now, let's take a tour from top to bottom. Zark, if you can make it to the top of the Pantheon, it will be a cool tour of the place. While I am talking about it, let me see here. Just skip the memory. Skip this cutscene if you can. Can you? I don't know.
The banker has a special evening plan. I will be delivering your payment. Give it here.
Let's see here. Trust me, it will be such a cool thing when I'm like explaining it as we're going down and like assassinating the target, which is pretty cool. So let's see over here. Dark, I believe you can just go behind it. Yeah, there we go. Nice. Let's see here. Okay. Well. Now, as I was saying, we're gonna take a tour from top to bottom of the Pantheon, and it will start in just a second here. Hopefully. Let me see. So, alright, so going down the Pantheon, you'll see the 28 coffers surrounding the dome. Well, not the dorm, sorry, the dome. As you pass by these going down, these coffers line up in 5 rings, and they reduce in size as they rise up. This, to the eyes of the perceiver, meant that these coffers were ascending to heaven, which is pretty cool. So as you descend to the ground, you will feel the grandeur of the place as you are surrounded by 7 godly niches: the Sun, Moon, Venus, Saturn, Jupiter, Mercury, and Mars. The area is vast. You are one in its presence. The concrete dome is overwhelming, as you can see. The sun or the moon feels light to the temple. Rain even comes in through the oculus to this day. And eventually, as Zark will take his leave with Ezio, you will see the grandeur. The grandeur you've experienced isn't done yet. Outside in the porch, or portico, 16 miraculously imported Egyptian Corinthian columns await your presence. It takes 4 people to hug each column. These columns were imported from Egypt. They were floated up the Nile River through the Mediterranean Sea and ended their journey up the Tiber River. If you want to know more information about the Pantheon, you can also go to the Instagram of AC_landmarks to know more about it. But as you exit the Pantheon, you see the frieze of the landmark. Hadrian gave credit to Agrippa on the frieze. The words M. Agrippa LF Cos Tertium Facit means Marcus Agrippa, son of Lucius, 3-time consul, made this. Hadrian honored this building so much he held meetings in it. Hadrian was a major patron of arts and architecture across Europe and the Mediterranean. His projects extended to Britain, building a 73-mile wall featured in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Agrippa influenced Hadrian's Pantheon. Hadrian influenced many dome-like structures of today. this is how inspiration works. Now, the debris of history reduced the base of the Pantheon from 7 meters, which is 22 feet, to just 1.3 meters, 4.2 feet. That was just its entrance back in the day. Now, as for AC historical accuracy, for I don't know how many years AC Brotherhood has been with us now, but for such an old game, AC Brotherhood got many aspects of the Pantheon right. From its
12 years, by the way.
12 years, okay. From its dome to the geometric shaped ground to the frieze. The pediment of the Pantheon is left with drill holes. Those holes held statues once. Maybe in a game in ancient Rome, we'll see the Pantheon even prettier back in its heyday, which is cool. That concludes my research for the Pantheon.
Nice, great.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Let's see here.
Hey.
Alrighty. Now, for the giveaway of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, let me see here. Who is in the chat over here? So we have 4 people watching, which is good. I want to ask the question: where were the exterior columns of the Pantheon delivered from? A. Greece. B. Florence. C. Venice. Or D. Egypt. Now, be aware that this giveaway will only be available for US and Europe only. So, if you want to answer the question, yeah, just be aware of that. I don't want to be feeling bad about not delivering you the giveaway. If the chat is yeah, cool. Yeah, it's Egypt, Tiana. Congratulations. Are you from the US or Europe, Tihana? And do you have Twitter or an Instagram? I can DM you. Let me see. Awesome. Congratulations. DM me on Twitter or Instagram. Or info. Awesome. Alrighty. Well, now that we have the winner for the AC Valhalla giveaway, let's move forward with Juan Borgia.
Okay, we don't do the trivia question now. We do it after 2 more. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. We just did the historical question.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. So it's sequence 5, memory 4. And, well, we're going to talk about one of Juan Borges from the Renaissance, concretely about Juan de Borja Gensol de Romani, el Mayor. Another Juan Borgia was the firstborn of Rodrigo Borgia, and brother of Cesare and Lucrezia. So I'm saying this to avoid some confusion, because actually when I was researching this, I was having a lot of troubles because I was finding information about 3 different ones, and I was really confused because they were all alive around the same time period. So it was a bit of a mess. But the one we're going to talk about is the one that appears in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. That's why we're doing this mission. And this person, Juan de Borja Jansol de Romani el Mayor, which means the elder, was born in 1446 in Valencia, in Spain. And he was the cousin of Pope Alexander VI, aka Rodrigo Borgia. He was called the Cardinal of Borja and the Cardinal of Monreale. He was a third cousin of Cardinals Juan de Borja Lansol de Romani el Menor, which is the minor, who was born in 1496, and Pedro Luis de Borja Lansol de Romani, who was born in the 1500s. He was also cousin of the Cardinal Juan Castellari de Borja, who was born in 1503. So this is really confusing because they were all basically from the same family, from the Borgias, and they were more or less related to the to each other, and to the Pope, to Alexander VI. So, Pope Sixtus IV was also a relative of Juan Borgia, and he made Borgia a proto-notary apostolic and an editor of apostolic letters around 1480, more or less. Then Pope Innocent VIII made him the governor of Rome. He was then elected Archbishop of Monreale in September 13 of 1483, an archdiocese that he would actually never visit but occupy until his death. So, a bit of corruption and nepotism. There is no evidence that he was ever ordained a priest or consecrated as bishop, actually. After the papal conclave in 1492, which elected Borgia's relative Rodrigo as Pope, as Alexander VI, he was created Cardinal Priest of San Susanna on August 31st in 1492. In May of 1494, he attended the coronation of Alfonso II of Naples, which he actually officiated. And then, along with Cesare Borgia and Alexander VI, Juan met with Alfonso on July the 12th in 1494 in Vicovaro to coordinate military strategy against Cardinal Ascanio Sforza, whom Borgia would later replace in the office of the Vice-Chancellor in 1500s, and his allies, as well as Charles VIII of France. He then suddenly died on August 1st, 1503 in Rome. So, they don't really, there's not a lot of conversation about what happened exactly to him, but I wanted to point out that another Juan Borgia, so the one that I spoke about first, who was the brother of Cesare and Lucrezia, he was found dead in the streets of Rome as well. And there were conversations. It's actually a cold case, a very famous cold case. And he was, historians suspect that he might have been murdered by Cesare because being the firstborn of Rodrigo, he had access to the military power. And Cesare was, sent to be a priest. And Cesare didn't like that, so allegedly he murdered him. And additionally, it could have been the Orsini family because apparently he killed or he was involved in the death of Virginio Orsini. If you remember, Orsini is, one of the Orsini family, is the one that allowed Ezio to use the Isola Tiberina as, the headquarters in Isola Tiberina as the headquarters of the assassins. And later he actually arrests Cesare at one of the gates of Rome, almost at the end of the game. So I know it's a lot of extra information, but I'm trying to extend it because we have literally just begun the memory, and I have just finished I didn't have a lot of information about Juan Borgia because there's actually not a lot available about him. I mean, maybe in other sources, but the ones I consulted, there's not a lot to say about him. He was not that prominent. He was just, family of Rodrigo. So
Yeah, thanks for like including this like information about him. I think it's like it's very educational, and believe me, even I was like, man, like I couldn't find sources about this guy. So good job for like finding it. We're about to kill him, yay!
Yeah. So I think we can actually leave this for the moment, and let's just let Arch kill him because it's almost now, I think.
Yeah, Zark's gonna kill him.
Yeah, and then we can continue with the next memory.
Oh,
I'm
nice.
curious. I actually never did that. I never took that approach of climbing the rooftops to kill him. I always went under the,
You can skip the cutscene of like this drama if you want.
Soon, we will be here once more, celebrating a united.
Well, maybe what we can talk about, if anyone knows anything about it. I know we haven't prepared it, but does anyone want to say anything about bacchanals in Rome? Since we're pretty much seeing one.
Joseph? I know nothing about it.
Amit?
I know nothing about bacchanals in like Rome. It would have been an interesting topic to cover, not gonna lie.
It would have been, yes, but I think there were other things that are less spicy, maybe.
Oh. Yeah. Man, I love the assassination from like from like a sitting place.
That's usually how I do it, because you really have to be hiding, otherwise you get desynchronized really fast, like what has happened to Sark. And no pressure, Sark, take your time. We know it can be a bit frustrating to finish this, so...
Well, here's what we can do. While Zark is doing his thing, assassinating Juan Borgia, we can go over another trivia topic, and then just do 2 more topics after that. How about that?
All right. I think it was Historian's Perspective that guessed the last one. So he can choose the next game.
Historian's Perspective.
Let's go with Revelations then. Let's keep it to Ezio.
Okay. Okay, this one is a difficult one. Which song plays when Clay Casmatic saves Desmond from being destroyed by the Animus?
I have no idea.
Okay, I'm going to give the multiple choice options. It's A. A. Passing the Torch. B. Everything Changes. C. Scheduled for Deletion. Or D. Of Life and Death.
I have no idea myself. Give a hint.
Well, think that he's being destroyed from the animus, so think in a technical way, I suppose.
Men of power must be contemptuous of delicacies.
Because I was thinking myself, it's either A or C.
Now you pay for it.
Choose one.
I'd want to say A was my first choice.
No, that's not correct.
Which song plays when? Oh, scheduled for deletion.
Yeah, it's scheduled for deletion. It's actually one of my favorite songs in Revelations. I think it's so I don't know. It makes you feel a lot when Clay is being literally deleted by the animus.
I work out to that song.
You work out to that song. I work to that song, so I have it in the background while I'm working in the laptop and stuff.
Doesn't shock me, which is kind of sad.
Yeah. Let's see.
Okay, so the next is sequence 7, memory 3, and it's going to be about the Flavian Amphitheater or the Colosseum. Who's doing this one?
That's me, Joseph.
Okay.
When I originally started researching this one, I actually was pulling up the raw amphitheater, and then I had to mass delete and start over. Okay, so the Flavian Amphitheater, also known as the Colosseum, was originally the central building within an extensive complex of structures with various functions that were closely connected to it. It was used for gladiatorial contests and various other public events and performances, and it was connected to several other buildings and structures, also by underground tunnels, including the armamentarium, where weapons were stored. Moreover, the Summum Corrigium was used as a deposit for theatrical scenery and machinery. The Sanitarium, where wounded gladiators were treated, and the Spolinarium, where the bodies of those who died in the arena were taken to be stripped of their armor and prepared for burial. These were converted from the gardens and the vestibule of the Emperor Nero's former palace. And also nearby was the Ludus Magnus, a training school for gladiators, as well as the Ludus Matutinus, where fighters of animals were trained. Following the death of Nero in 68 CE, and the year of the 3 emperors, supposed to be 4 emperors, construction of the Colosseum began under Emperor Vespasian. Titus Flavius Vespasian, who reigned from the 1st of July 69 CE to the 24th of June 79 CE. In around 72 CE, but planning possibly to begin as early as 70 CE, it took only about 8 years to erect this massive building, and the Colosseum was inaugurated in 80 CE under the reign of Vespasian's son, Emperor Titus. The Colosseum was probably funded by the spoils taken from the Second Temple of Jerusalem, as well as from the conquest and sacking of the Jewish city by the legions commanded by Titus in August and September of 70 CE, now known as the Western Wall, or so-called Wailing Wall of the Temple, still remains today. Vespasian's radical building intervention affected the entire area that was still occupied by Nero's Golden House, including several other buildings around the amphitheater, which was originally called the Flavian Amphitheater, or the Amphitheatarium Flavianum, after the name of the new imperial Flavian dynasty founded by Vespasian. Some of the tunnels that ran between these buildings will survive. The entire complex of structures covered an area of at least 7 hectares and took about 20 years to complete them, until the end of the reign of Emperor Domitian, Titus's brother. Following the Great Fire on the 18th of July 64 CE, which raged for 6 days and nights and destroyed a large part of the center of Rome, the Emperor Nero had his sumptuous residence or palace, the Golden House, or Domus Aurea, built in this area, which lies in the valley between the Palatine Esquiline, Oppian, and Calayan hills. There was almost certainly a large quadrangular artificial pool or lake known as the Stagnus in the low-lying area where the Colosseum would be built. Vespasian's decision to remove many structures of Nero's palace certainly had a political significance. By constructing an amphitheater here for public entertainment, he was in effect giving the area back to the people. As it had previously been a residential area, the site, a valley previously filled by a lake, had to be carefully drained to avoid the risk of subsidence, and so several channels were dug at a depth of 8 meters through which underground water could flow away. These channels would then be connected to a sewer system around the Colosseum, which would collect the waste from public toilets in the building. Then a set of concentric foundations, mostly made of concrete, were laid, ranging from a depth of 13 meters under the outer walls to 4 meters under the central arena. These facts alone show how carefully the building was planned, even before the first stone was laid. It's been estimated that as many as 100,000 prisoners were brought back to Rome as slaves after the Jewish War, which ended in 73 CE. Thousands of them certainly worked under hundreds of skilled stonemasons to build the Colosseum. This would also have quarried the blocks of travertine stone at Tivoli, 20 miles east of Rome, and transported them to Rome. This whitish limestone was used to construct the basic skeleton of the building, consisting of the main load-bearing pillars, most of the ground floor, and the entire external wall, reaching a height of 48 meters, or 158 feet. Moreover, this monumental outer wall consisting of 3 levels, each one perforated by 80 arches, topped by a 4th attic level with 40 central rectangular windows, was made of over 1,000 cubic meters of travertine stone held together by iron or bronze clamps, amounting to around 300 tons of metal. These clamps were extracted in medieval times, leaving the many small holes that can now be seen all over the building. According to the Roman legend, the architect who planned the Colosseum was a certain Gaudentius, a Roman nobleman who then became a Christian martyr, and he was killed in the arena that he himself designed at some time near the end of Domitian's reign, when Christians were supposedly being prosecuted. This fantastic legend seems to originate in the 17th century, and is probably based on the erroneous interpretation of an inscription found in a crypt in the Church of St. Luke's in Martina in the Roman Forum. In fact, although thanks to inscriptions and historical sources, we usually know who commissioned and paid for Roman monuments, the names of the architects and designers have rarely come down to us, as they were often considered as less important, like the many unskilled workers who built their creation. Vespasian did not live to see the spectacular inauguration of the immense construction that he had begun. This took place in 80 CE, during the reign of his son Titus, and it consisted of 100 days of festivities consisting of gladiator fights, wild animal hunts, and, according to the poet Martial, some spectacularly cruel executions, as well as naval battles and various swimming performances, during which the arena was presumably filled with water like an enormous bathtub. Since December 21st, 2018, the Colosseum Archaeological Park, also including the Roman Forum, the Palatine Hill, and Domus Aurea, the current director of which is the archaeologist Alfonsina Russo, has created a new exhibition for visitors to the Colosseum. With the collaboration of Rosella Rea, the Roma III University, and the German Archaeological Institute of Rome, it is a multimedia journey with films and slideshows divided into 11 sections, which reveal the architecture of the Flavian Amphitheater, as well as its more recent transformations, the various activities conducted inside the building in Roman times, and the impressions of travelers. The recreation of an animal elevator, an experimental archaeology project. On June 5th, 2015, the Cultural Heritage Minister, Dario Franchischini, inaugurated the reproduction of one of the 28 elevators which the Flavian Amphitheater was equipped with from the time of Domitian. Visitors to the Colosseum can now see for themselves how a complex system of pulleys, ropes, and counterweights made it possible for caged wild animals such as tigers, lions, bears, and deer to be lifted from the subterranean areas into the arena 8 meters higher to emerge through a trapdoor. This beast lift is now located in the underground corridor on the southern side of the arena. Unfortunately, it is only put into operation on special occasions or during visits by VIPs. And that's all I have.
That's
Nice,
great.
That was very nice, yeah.
Yeah, and just to add that the Colosseum would, I think, would like go down later on in its operation. Like the human blood sports would finish 100 years before, like approximately a century before, like the wild hunts and spectacles stopped because it became too expensive to roam to, like, you know, kind of buy animals or, you know, to do the spectacles, because then Rome was going through a financial problem itself. That's why the Colosseum stopped operating. So yeah, that's a little bit additional research for you. But now that we're done with that, we'll go to the other big landmark in AC Brotherhood, which is the Castel Sant'Angelo. Are we at the memory of Castel Sant'Angelo yet? It's sequence 8, memory 1. Let's go. Alrighty.
This is my least favorite mission in the game because I can never complete it 100%.
Least favorite?
Yeah, infiltrating it without being seen is so annoying.
Maybe because you're not an assassin. Ooh.
Oh, shots fired. Damn.
Yeah. Come on, Joseph, you gotta complete it 100%. Anyhow, guys, let's go over the Castel Sant'Angelo, or as it was called back in its heyday, Hadrianium, because it was originally built by Emperor Hadrian II. Hadrian built a lot of projects for himself. It was built by him in 123 AD. So that's very easy to remember. 123 AD. But it was done in 139 AD. Hadrian's Wall, which is featured in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, is only 15 years older than Hadrianium, Castel Sant'Angelo. It was built as a monumental tomb for him and his family. Atop it, Hadrian stood on his chariot with his 4 horses marching. Hadrian didn't live to see the tomb done, but he was buried there. He was buried near the river itself, close to the Alien Bridge, where it was there that he had prepared his tomb. This is a quotation by Cassius Dio from the Roman history that he wrote about. Well, thereon, emperors got buried there in Hadrianium. Now, because Augustus's mausoleum was full, Hadrian built Hadrianium and didn't surpass Augustus himself because he always respected tradition. His respect to history was immeasurable. In 271, it became a defense fortress under Marcus Aurelius. This was a defense for the north side of Rome. In the Dark and Middle Ages, the fortress was used even more for defense, be it that Roman ruins served as defense structures against barbarians. Just like how in AC Valhalla, you can see the cities of Lincoln, for example, having a defense fort over there, against barbarians attacking. It's a wonderful connection to make to the Middle Ages of castles or fortresses being a defense purpose. Now in 15. No, not 15. Now, in 590 AD, plague hit Rome. Many died. That Pope Gregory the Great told people to pray so Rome cures. And God sent Archangel Michael, who landed on the fortress sheathing his sword, hence ending the plague. This is why you have the Castel being named Castel Sant'Angelo. Angel. There we go. Now it was fought over until the mid-1300s when papal court made it their home. Castel Sant'Angelo became the symbol of the worldly power of the popes under Pope Boniface the 9th? IX is 9th, right? Help me out, Joseph?
Yes, IX is 9.
Yeah. God, I'm horrible with Roman numerals. Anyway, the fortress became so dangerous, a secret passageway was made to ensure the safety of the Pope. During the Borgia rule in the 16th century, Pope Alexander VI, aka Rodrigo Borgia, fortified the fortress more. He added bastions, he added a round tower, made the waters around it moat. All these measures were taken to evade King Charles VIII of France from claiming Naples and from seizing Rome. Now, if you see the Castel in AC Brotherhood, you see that it has a moat around it, and that's how we came in to the Castel itself. Now, let me see over here. So, Rodrigo was short on the army, though. So like he lost, but he won after long negotiations because Charles VIII entered Rome, but he recognized Rodrigo as the Pope. Now, in historical accuracy, the place of Rodrigo's death, which was in the Castel, is correct. He is said to have died from malaria, though, not apple poisoning. But in AC, it's poetic. Apple of Eden, here, eat the apple. Die. Very, very poetic. And also, Caterina Sforza was imprisoned at Castel Sant'Angelo after Borgia tried to take her real estate from her husband dying. Before her husband's death, she even seized the castle herself. Caterina, of course, was left in charge to defend the fortress herself, being 7 months pregnant. Archangel Michael's statue was not put in AC because it was placed in 1536. So historical accuracy there, as the game takes place before that. The bridge was made in 239 AD to be the only entry to the castle because of defense reasons. In 1688, Bernini added 10 angels. In Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, not historically accurate, but 10 angels exist on the bridge just because it makes the Castillo look flashier. So that concludes my my research on Castel Sant'Angelo. And yay, we have 2 more topics left.
You can proceed with Rodrigo Borgia if you want, or we can do a trivia question now and do the last 2 topics if you want.
Let's do a trivia question, do the last 2 topics, and then do the historical question and sign out.
Okay. I'm sorry, historian's perspective? Did you say something?
No, I'm like, is that cool?
Ah, okay. Okay, who guessed the previous one? I think it was Arch.
Me. Yeah.
Yes. So choose game, please. Sorry.
Let's go with Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Why not?
Okay. We hardly have asked any questions about Valhalla or Odyssey, for that matter. Okay, so this one is an easy one from the beginning of the game. Why doesn't Hytham participate in assassinations or field missions during the game?
Oh boy. Why doesn't he?
I can put multiple choice.
By the way, guys, if you haven't yet, we are supporting a fundraiser for that AC Fursiv has headed. It is for the British Heart Foundation and the American Heart Association to fund critical cardiovascular medical research and provide education to families around the world. So if you want to donate, go to the description down below. This can go to the chat right now or to whoever is listening to the video once it's uploaded. So we greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Arch. Actually, I was going to say that a bit later, but I forgot.
Yeah.
So actually, Meg already answered because I was posting the multiple choice without really reading it because you were still talking, and Meg already guessed it. So yeah. The options were that he was very hurt by Kjotve in Norway, and he never fully recovered. That he doesn't have the killer instinct and he's more of a bookworm, that Basim doesn't think he's prepared for it, or that he doesn't trust the Norse folk and prefers to stay away from them. And like Meg said, it's indeed A. He was very hurt by Kjotve in Norway, and he never fully recovered. So,
emphasis on the very. Emphasis on the very.
Yeah, it was pretty bad actually.
Yeah.
So okay, we can continue with the next 2 topics. Well, the last topics actually.
Yep. I think it's father and son. Rodrigo Borgia first because seniority, and then Cesare Borgia.
Okay.
All right, let's start with Rodrigo then.
Let's do it.
So this is me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Rodrigo Borgia was born into the Spanish branch of the prominent and powerful Borgia family. His uncle, Alonso de Borgia, Bishop of Valencia, later became a cardinal, supervised his education and endowed him with ecclesiastical benefices while still in his teens. He patronized the arts and fathered a number of children for whom he provided livings, mainly in Spain, by a Roman noblewoman, Vanazza Catanai. That's how you say her name. He had 4 subsequently legitimized offspring: Juan, Cesare, Geoffrey, and Lucrezia, whose complicated careers troubled his pontificate. Despite the shadow of simony that surrounded the disposal of his benefices among the papal electors, Rodrigo emerged from a tumultuous conclave on the night of August 10th and 11th, 1492, as Pope Alexander VI, and received the acclaim of the Roman people. He embarked upon a reform of papal finances and vigorous pursuit of the war against the Ottoman Turks. In September 1493, Alexander created his teenage son as a cardinal, along with Alessandro Farnese, the brother of the papal favorite Delia Labella, and the future Pope Paul III. In the course of his pontificate, Alexander appointed 47 cardinals to further his complicated dynastic, ecclesiastical, and political policies. Tragedy struck the papal household on June 14, 1497, when Alexander's favorite son Juan was murdered, as we saw previously in the stream. Gravely afflicted, Alexander announced a reform program and called for measures to restrain the luxury of the papal court, reorganize the apostolic chancery, and repress simony and concubinage. Alexander had shown great forbearance in dealing with the Dominican friar Girolamo Savonarola, who usurped political control in Florence in 1494, condemned the evils of the papal court, and called for the Pope's deposition. And even before the friar's downfall in May 1498, theologians and men of affairs had expressed support for the papacy. In the wake of Christopher Columbus' apocal discoveries, and at the request of Ferdinand and Isabella, Alexander issued a bull granting Spain the exclusive right to explore the seas and claim all New World lands lying west of north-south line 100 leagues, about 320 miles west of the Cape Verde Islands. As a patron of the arts, Alexander erected a center for the University of Rome, restored the Castel Sant'Angelo, built the monumental mansion in the Apostolic Chancery, embellished the Vatican palaces, and persuaded Michelangelo to draw plans for the rebuilding of St. Peter's Basilica. He proclaimed the year 1500 a holy year of Jubilee, and authorized a celebration with great pomp. He also promoted the evangelization of the New World. Attempts to whitewash Alexander's private conduct have proved abortive. While his religious convictions cannot be challenged, Scandal accompanied his activities throughout his career. Even from a Renaissance viewpoint, his relentless pursuit of political goals and unremitting efforts to aggrandize his family were seen as excessive. Neither as corrupt as depicted by Machiavelli and by gossip, nor as useful to the Church's expansion as apologists would make it. Alexander VI holds a high place in the list of the so-called bad popes. Saturday, on the 12th of August, 1503, the Pope fell ill in the morning. After the hour of Vespers, between 6 and 7 o'clock, a fever appeared and remained permanent. On August 15th, 13 ounces of blood were drawn from him, and the tertian ague supervened. On Thursday, 17th of August, at 9 o'clock in the forenoon, he took medicine. On Friday the 18th, between 9 and 10 o'clock, he confessed to Bishop Gamboa of Carignola, who then read Mass to him. After his communion, he gave the Eucharist to the Pope, who was sitting in bed. Then he ended the Mass, at which were present 5 cardinals: Sarah, Juan, and Francesco Borgia, Casanova, and Loris. The Pope told them that he felt very bad at the hour of Vespers. After Gamboa had given him extreme unction, he had died. This is according to Bucard's diary, providing a few details on the Pope's final illness and death at the age of 72. And that's all I have for Borgia.
Nice, thanks.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was actually. It's yeah.
When it comes to Rodrigo Borgia, like I think, I don't know. I researched Cesare Borgia and not Rodrigo Borgia, just because like Rodrigo was like the patriarch of the family, and you know, God knows what he was up to, but like his son was like much worse. But yeah, that's what happens when he has like a spoiled child.
I wanted to point out, it's nothing, but you mentioned that his elder son, his favorite son, he was murdered, and that's what we saw in the game. But like I mentioned before, what we saw in the game was Juan Borgia, the cousin of Rodrigo, being murdered. That was not his son, but it's the one I mentioned. The cold case is the one that you say that was murdered.
Yeah, as I'm going to go over it right now, I think because Cesare was at odds with his brother.
Yeah, definitely.
Mostly, but yeah, his brother Giovanni. Anywho, where are we on the? Where are we right now? Are we going to the Vienna memory?
He's finishing the memory, I think.
Just exit the memory.
Yeah, just exit the memory. It's fine.
Okay.
The memory just provides scenery. They don't really do much else.
Yeah. For Assassin's Creed 2, we need to see how we're gonna do that, as memory jumps is not gonna happen, but I think, but we can figure out a way. I'm sure. So, but that's next week's problem. All right, so Cesare Borgia, right in the thick of it. Cesare Borgia was raised to be in church as his father was. At age 18, when Rodrigo Borgia became pope, he made Cesare a cardinal. This was like hugely, against the rules, but Borgia had influence, so he made his son cardinal. But Cesare didn't like church life. He was of low faith and utter failure in chastity vows. He was bothered by the concept of being put in the church. He had bigger ambitions. His brother, Giovanni, had taken charge of the military. Cesare was likely jealous. After Rodrigo sent Giovanni to be the Duke of Benevento and gave Cesare the responsibility to be in charge of a simple papal legate that was sent to Naples, which is right close to each other. It was a small task, but Cesare was growing tired of seeing his brother go up in rank and him being stuck at church. A month later, Giovanni would go missing after a dinner with Cesare. His body was found later in the Tiber Valley, 9 times stabbed and throat cut. I wonder who did it. Whether that was done by him or not, there was an opening now for Cesare. So on August 17th, 1498, Cesare Borgia resigned from his position as cardinal, being the first cardinal to ever do so. Thanks to his father's authority in the decision, he had cardinals vote him out. Having Rodrigo and Cesare unified in their goal now, they had to find Cesare's first Italian state. to rule. The Pope deposed all the vicars of Romagna and Marche, which was a city, and replaced them with Cesare, and they won. And now, being the commander of the papal armies and being the Duke of Valentinois at this point, due to Rodrigo's efforts in securing an alliance with the French, Cesare ran into a problem with the conditions of becoming a Duke of Valentinois. You see, he was the condition of becoming connected with France was that he was to marry the sister of the King of Navarre, a strong ally of France against Spain. Rodrigo Borgia didn't like this. Cesare did because France sent him armies, as we see in AC Brotherhood. His only tie to Spain, though, because Spain was enemies with France, his tie was his brother-in-law, Alfonso, King Ferdinand of Aragon's cousin, because Alfonso was married to Lucrezia Borgia. So Cesare killed him using Micheletto, who is also a character in-game, who you saw that Ezio spared in the Colosseum memory. Anywho, with all this background history explained, this is where Assassin's Creed Brotherhood starts. Cesare came for Imola and Forli next. He was backed by his own papal army, thousands of troops sent over from France, and additional Italian mercenaries. Now, this memory is shown as Cesare attacking Monteriggioni, but in reality, he never attacked Monteriggioni. It was all for like spectacle sake. He actually attacked Imola and Forli, as you see with the AC2 DLC, but Cesare was not done yet. He was connected to the family that attacked Caterina Sforza, though, back then. Imola and Forli were both captured by him, but Forli's capture was more dramatic, with Caterina being involved. After fighting hard, Caterina cleverly surrendered to the French. French law did not allow women to take prisoners of war, but it backfired when the French simply gave her to Cesare. After he captured Forli, French troops returned home, and Cesare was welcomed into Rome as a victor. Celebrations ensued, and he was made papal gonfaloniere by Rodrigo Borgia. After this, Cesare secured Romagna and Marche's allegiance to him after revolts by his generals threatened his rule. He simply invited them to a dinner, and in that dinner he arrested them, and later he killed them, and he secured Romagna and Marche, having no opposition. Now comes his fall. After securing Italy for the Borgia, Cesare and Rodrigo got malaria. Due to his young body, Cesare survived. Rodrigo's body didn't overcome it, though, because, he was old in age. The sickness that the father and son had was explored in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, while at the time it was speculated as a poisoning attempt. Modern historians say it was more likely malaria. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood shows Cesare being poisoned by an apple and feeding it to his dad. Now, after Rodrigo died, the next pope, in favor of Cesare, lived for 26 days, then died. Pope Julius II became Pope next. He hated Cesare. He hated him so much that he stripped him of Romagna and of his rule. When Cesare escaped to Naples, he was arrested there. He was thrown in jail and sent to Spain. By the way, this is the country that he opposed to go with France. Now, after 2 years, Cesare escaped miraculously to Navarre in 1506. Thanks to his brother-in-law, he was made a general because Cesare did marry into the Navarre family. Previously, he had some connections that planned his escape to Navarre. Anyway, when he was made general, he besieged the castle of Vienna, as you can see in front of you right now. This memory is happening in Vienna on March 11th, 1507. Cesare, though, was killed in this battle with 25 wounds by knights. This is ironic, but like fictionally speaking, since he was killed by knights, like, you know, because, like, you know, Templar knights, and he's a Templar, so I think like some sort of fictional nerd over here. Anyway, after they stabbed him 25 times, Cesare was stripped nude, and the knights didn't know who he is. When they did, though, they buried his body, and his tomb read, "Here in a scant piece of earth lies he whom all the world feared." And with that bit of information, I conclude Cesare Borgia's research and the research of AC Brotherhood Discovery Tour.
Oh, that was he was a special man. Eh? Before we finish, I kind of want to share the rhyme that Ezio created for Assassin's Creed Revelations about Cesare, because it's really funny and it has just happened. So yeah, I'll just say it in a moment. It's Cesare, oh Cesare, a man of great depravity, believed himself immortal till he had a date with gravity. So there you go. I just love that rhyme. It's really fucking great.
It's amazing.
Okay, so yeah, that's over, and just in time for the end of that that memory of by Zark. So yeah, I think that's it.
Oh, cool. Alrighty. Well, we're gonna move to a historical question right now of AC Brotherhood's historical topics that we just covered. But so let me see here. Just a second. I'm typing up the question.
This is to get the Ultimate Edition of Assassin's Creed Valhalla again, right? For the, okay, for United States, well, America and Europe, yeah?
Yeah, so this is to get the giveaway of AC Valhalla Ultimate Edition for US, for United States, and Europe only. So if you're not from Europe or US, I I unfortunately cannot give you the giveaway just because I don't want to disappoint you. So yeah, let me see over here. Watching.
You feeling lucky, amigo?
Coming up with the question. So sorry. So
Let's up the ante, yes?
So how did Rodrigo Borgia die?
In game or historical question? Yeah, sorry.
Historical question. Did he die eating an apple? Eating a poisoned apple? Did he die because of tuberculosis?
Care to sweeten the pot, amigo?
Cancer? Or malaria?
I guess the co-hosts cannot answer, right?
I mean, since we are only 5 in chat over here, if you guys can answer and you're in Europe or US, sure.
I mean, I don't know the answer, but I prefer that someone else tries to answer first. And okay. I swear I'm not looking at the answer in the document that you made.
Okay. Cool.
Well, I know how he died in the game. Is this supposed to be a historical answer or in-game answer?
Historical. I asked the same question before.
It's a historical.
In game, Cesare shoved a poison apple down his throat. But if you go off of real life, the documents aren't very specific. They just say that he caught a fever and progressively got worse. So that could be anything.
I just literally told you one of the reasons he died.
Yeah. I don't remember. I remember perfectly. And actually, what the historian's perspective has said makes a lot of sense because this disease causes something like that. And eventually it can kill you if it's untreated or if it gets very severe and affects the brain.
Yeah.
So...
I don't think we have...
You're thinking tuberculosis?
No. It's not tuberculosis. It's I'm thinking
malaria?
I'm thinking about malaria. Yes.
Do we just I mean, just to make it fair, do we, since there is nobody answering, do we just put this in a later giveaway or no?
Yeah, save it for later giveaway.
Save it for later and change the question. Just use something else because obviously we have given the answer. So yeah.
Yeah. Well,
that answers.
We at least have one more.
That's at best an educated guess.
What?
So that answer's too vague. It's at best an educated guess.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the answer would be malaria, but yeah,
Oh, we don't know for sure malaria. All we have is a few symptoms, and those symptoms are very common.
That is true.
Didn't you say malaria, Arsh, when you were reading about Rodrigo? Or
yeah, scholars have concluded that
that's like saying Julius Caesar suffered from seizures, but we know that based off of historical sources. weren't even alive at the time. So
I guess you're right.
Fair point. Okay, yes, let's just use a different question, Arch, for next time, and I think we can conclude the stream then.
Right now, yeah. Cool. Alrighty. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. This has been AC Brotherhood Discovery Tour. You can follow me, AC Landmarks, on Twitter and Instagram. That's at AC_landmarks for both social medias. For historical inputs into the Assassin's Creed franchise that are well researched and documented. Where can they follow you guys?
Well, in my case, the YouTube channel is in the description of this video, so they can check that one out. It's The Science of Assassin's Creed, and they can find me on Twitter as Science Creed. I just speak about Assassin's Creed topics related in a scientific perspective. So it's pretty simple, actually. I don't post a lot, but I think it's interesting.
You can find me, Historian's Perspective, at Instagram under Historian's Perspective and Twitter under Historian's Purse. And keep an eye out there. I'm actually researching, just posting some quick historical facts. They could be about anything. It doesn't have to be AC related. And I will see you guys there.
Yep. And of course, you can subscribe to Master Ricotta's ceremonials. Thank you so much for hosting this, Zark.
Absolutely. Thank you, Zark.
We appreciate you for all the work you do behind the scenes. Unfortunately, you couldn't speak today, but hey, there is like we did this discovery tour, and now it is at its end. So with that, guys, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time on Assassin's Creed 2. Bye.